Welcome to another TalkTruth Series. I hope you guys are having a lovely night because I am having a wonderful Saturday evening, or I would say Saturday night, yeah. Um, so I hope you guys have been going through the week, beautiful and everything. We're taking the proper precaution to stay safe during this world pandemic. And I'm glad to be here another Saturday just to inform you, to empower you for us to be better people in the future. Welcome to another Real Connection, the men's edition. And tonight we have a wonderful guest with us. A wonderful guest. It would be a guest like none other. So tonight's guest is, I'm not going to give away the name. He is a behavioral interventionist. He is a national speaker, consultant, trainer, a subject matter leader on marginalization, personal identity, and cognitive identity. You see, a whole heap him can do, He is a faithful disruptor of systematic structures, right? He is dedicated the past 17 years educating and being educated by young men of color trapped in impoverished predicaments. Yes, sorry, having a reading thing right now. He has spearheaded youth programming, consulted with organizations to include in alternative schools, and serve as a critical team member in building in initiatives to support Black boys and marginalized population. He is the author of A Marginalized Voice, Devalued, Dismissed, Defranchised, and Demonized. Yes. So tonight our guest is none other than Mr. William himself. Welcome.
What's up with you, Lamar? How you be today, man?
I'm having a good day, the introduction was a little bit shaky, but we're having a good day, and we're glad to have you here, to talk to about somebody who is making it better for boys and girls, people of my age, young men out there who are struggling. So I'm just excited to hear your story.
Yeah, look, thank you for having me, man. International, man. I'm in Jamaica, man. Like I'm loving it, man. But this is a story. I was born in New York City, but was raised in a small town in North Carolina. Grew up wanting to play professional basketball. Went to college and played, but eventually that dream didn't happen. But my grandfather, my father's father, was instrumental in my life. He was a man of the community, just always helping someone in the community. And what I didn't realize at the time was that watching him was impacting my life. And so I just became a person who began to work in the community as well. Started out working with adult men, and I still work with adult men, and eventually began to work with youth as well. And the idea is just simply to pour into those youth and pour into those men the same way that my grandfather and the men of my community poured into me.
Yeah. So you took up your grandfather's mantle, but when did you decide, say, yeah, this is my thing? I'm going to follow into his footsteps and be just like him. When did you decide that it was for you?
Lamar, I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know if I really decided. Like it wasn't a plan. It wasn't. I sat down and said, you know what, I'm going to do this. But what had happened was I was actually at a church, and I was asked to lead a men's ministry group. And then leading that men's ministry group, I kind of did it differently than most people. I had never led a group in a church, so I really had no blueprint for how you were supposed to lead ministries. So I led it in a very different way, and the men loved it. I just began to help them in other parts of their lives. And after I stopped men's ministry director, I ended up meeting a gentleman who had an organization, and he asked me to come down and help him with his organization. And that was kind of the decision to help him with the organization. But even at that point, I still didn't realize that I was doing kind of what my grandfather was doing. And then about 4 or 5 years into doing this, I was like, wow, like I'm following in my grandfather's footsteps. And it was, 4 or 5 years into doing it when I said, you know what, I want to be like my granddad. I want to impact the community in the way that my grandfather impacted the community. So it wasn't a conscious decision. I kind of was doing it, and then I realized that I was doing it, and I began to embrace it, and I wanted to make it my life's work.
Understandably. But so you said you were leading a men group without having a blueprint. So how did you approach the situation? Because, being a leader is very difficult, and many of times we get the leadership without the blueprint. So how did you approach leading these men?
Again, great question. What I did was I followed. And what I mean when I said I followed, I began to understand what the men needed. I began to listen to them. And, there was some different, it was interesting. As soon as I became the director of the group, there was a gentleman who had just joined the church, and he had gotten himself in some trouble. And he actually had to go to jail. And while he was in jail, I had to take care of some things for him and his family, right? And, usually that's not something, I'm not going to say it's not something that you do in men's group, but usually, you have the Bible study or a prayer meeting or whatever it is in men's ministry. So I just began to follow the lead of the men and help them where they needed it. And after I began to do that, I began to say, you know what? They want something different. So I began to bring in different speakers and have different types of workshops. And I just listened to the men, just listened to what they wanted. I didn't go in there thinking that I knew what I needed to do. And, this is my plan. I'm going to put my plan in place. It was like, listen, gather the information, and then make a move based off of the information that I gathered.
Whoa. But my question is, so if you didn't have a blueprint and you followed and that's how you learned to lead and you finally understood what they needed instead of giving them a set plan like prior Bible studies, prayer meeting and stuff like that. But us men tend to have this shell where we have don't let in people here. This is what we have as a place. We just hide it away. So how did you realize that they needed help with stuff like that?
Well, the thing is, once you come in authentic, see, the thing is, and that, again, you asked us some great questions and making some great points. Most men have that shell put up because the world doesn't allow them to be vulnerable, right? The world tells you big boys don't cry. So when I hurt or when I'm in pain, I have to hide my hurt or my pain. Otherwise, you'll think I'm weak. So we're born and bred to lie to ourselves, right? And so to answer your question is usually when you come and you're very authentic with the people that you deal with, they'll feel I lead with love. So when they feel that you're being authentic, when they feel that you're not going to judge them, when you give them a safe place where they can land, where they can be vulnerable and tell these maybe intimate or secret issues, they don't have such a problem doing it. It's only when you stand up there and you try to be, as a leader, you try to be this great, perfect person who makes no mistakes, who has everything together, and I'm going to teach you how to do things. That wasn't my approach. My approach was, hey man, I'm here to learn, just like I'm here to hopefully help you learn. And so again, it was just about being authentic. It was just about allowing them to have a safe space to land. And it was about not judging who they were and what their situations were.
Beautiful response. And just like you're saying it was more of not only thinking yourself as a leader, but as a friend. That is, I get what you're saying. I get and I understand completely. And that's a brilliant strategy, because no one would want to be a part of a system where you don't even feel love.
Exactly. Exactly. There's a thing I do. I don't do it all the time. I haven't done it in a long time, but I used to put an empty chair and I would sit it right in front of me. So I'm leading the class and I put the empty chair in front of me and I tell them that empty chair, that's me sitting in that chair. Because when I'm talking to you, I'm also talking to me. I'm giving this lesson to myself as well. I need to hear this lesson as well. So again, we're in this together. I'm not above you. You're not below me. We're in this thing together and we're going to work it out together.
That's true, because one hand can't clap, if you understand what I mean.
I like that. I like
And the funny thing about it, every time someone make a statement like that, I always try to find some way, like maybe if I do this, I could clap, but the effect isn't there like how two hands can do it. And that is a
right.
beautiful way to see it, just as two hands trying to make a sound.
Right. Ooh. Ooh. See, that's what I'm telling. See, that right there is what I'm telling you. When I told you earlier that I learned so much from the young kids, man, they have a vision and a viewpoint that is so different. And that right there was genius, man. Oh, two hands together to make a sound. I'm gonna steal it. I'm gonna steal it, man.
No problem. We should share words of brilliance, so there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But, all right, so as a young man, I know it's very difficult, especially in the teenage years, where you're trying to find yourself where you fit in. How do you approach these young men who are not certain of who they are or where to go?
Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to help them understand who they are, right? Because too many times they have allowed someone else to dictate who they're supposed to be. So the first thing I want to do is I want to dismantle everything that the world tells you. So that's the first thing, right? You're not a thug, you're not an at-risk kid, you're not an N-word, you're not all these things that people call you. And we have deep conversations about those things. We talk about why you feel that way, and and that's the first thing. But the second thing is that when you're on a journey, like sometimes, like if I want to go to Jamaica, well, I can't drive to Jamaica. But let's just say, for instance, I could drive to Jamaica, right? I would have to get a map. And there's a starting place and there's a destination, and the map will tell me how to get to Jamaica, right? But in our lives are not quite like that. And so what happens is you got to, again, give them the space and the opportunity to say, hey, yo, look, go on your journey, but know that your journey is not a straight line. There's going to be some things that you're going to do and you're going to find out, I don't really like that. Or some things that you're going to do and it wasn't exactly what you thought it was. Michelle Obama has a book called Becoming. And in that book, she talks about, she's always becoming. So, this question that is always asked of little kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? You don't ask that because you're making them have a definitive thing. I want to grow up to, it's cool if you want to grow up. I want to grow up and be a basketball player. I became a behavioral health specialist. That's the way the road went. So the thing is to get, to be poignant about the question is one, to help them understand who they are, right? To help them understand the genius in who they are, but also to help them understand it's okay if you're taking this journey and some things don't go right. Because success is filled with mistakes. Success is filled with some supposedly failures. Success is filled with some losses. I say there's never losses, there are always lessons. And if you let them know that they can do these things and still be all right, then they'll be all right.
I get what you're saying, and brilliant words indeed. And you see, for that question we asked who they want to be in the future, I've been thinking about using that term in my application to university, but I could never. My answer to that question will always be I would want to be alive in the future, because when you're alive, you know that the possibility is there that you will be successful. For me, I know that as long as I have life, I will be successful. So I get what you're saying. Having that one-minded mentality is might destroy people, but it does help that some people do need to have that one set point to go.
Right. It's, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but and I was also saying the thing about the destination and the journey. People can still reach the same destination but taking different routes. And also in life, many of times I've never heard where two people live a life and they end up in the same destination. The only destination we end up that is the same is dying.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. And again, perfect. But again, I have a lot of friends who said when they were kids that, look, I want to be, for instance, a lawyer. You know, I want to be a lawyer. They went to school, became lawyers. They're lawyers, and now like, oh, I hate this job. You know, and some people continue to do it because they spent so much time becoming a lawyer. But you have the right to be able to change your mind, to have a different path, a different journey. And so I know one guy who was an attorney, was successful. He didn't like it, and he became a baker. And so he opened up some cupcake shops, and that made him happy. And so we have an opportunity, or we have a right to be able to change our minds. You know, and we don't have to be at 6 years old or 7 years old or 10 years old. We don't have to be stuck in this destination. And then there are sometimes when people say, I want to be something, and that's what they want to be. They live it out, you know? So.
So we're going to pause right here and take a look at the comment section.
Okay.
So guys, I want you to don't be afraid. Let us know that you're here, and also feel free to ask any question, to ask for clarity, anything, because we're here to enlighten you guys and empower you guys to be better versions of yourself. We're all here to learn. So share some words of wisdom and things. So Kadian is saying hi, good night. I'm sorry. Kadian is saying good night. I want to say hi to Kadian. I hope you're having a lovely night. And we're glad to have you here. So Reggae is saying good evening, Lamar. Good evening. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. Rochelle is saying good night. Good night, Rochelle. Good night, Mrs. Lewis. Yeah, share the video. Yes, guys, please share the video and like and subscribe. We're always happy to grow the community and everything, because indeed we all want to connect, have real connection with people. We all want to empower at work, but I'm here. Yeah, glad to have you. I'm so happy to have you tonight. And good night. Good night. Good night. So yeah, back to what I was saying. Young men at this age, and you said it first, you're trying to change their mentality, change the flawed system.
Mm-hmm.
Flawed system, yeah. So you want to change that flawed system that they grow up. It's like you're trying to uproot a tree that was planted that's not supposed to be there. And
There you
no,
go.
and then you're planting a new tree, a new mentality. Let them be able to find it. But you don't approach it as if you're tell them who to be, but you actually let them find out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My thing is not to, I am not the expert in your life, right? That's never my approach. I'm not the expert. Again, I want to sit down. I want to have a conversation with you. I want to learn from you, right? How can I help you help you, you know? And so the thing is, every major change starts from within. And so if you thought one way about yourself And I can help you think another way about yourself by saying, hey, you are a genius, right? And show you why you're a genius. Because a lot of times we may be something and we don't really know that we're that thing. And sometimes we need somebody to say, hey, do you realize how smart you are? Hey, do you realize that you can do this? We don't realize that sometimes. And again, when young boys have the world piling things on them, negative things on them, the genius that's in them, they can't see it, right? Because it's the barriers of the negativity are there. So what I do is I try to move the negativity out the way, and then say, hey, yo, look, put them up against a mirror and say, hey, look at the king right here. And what it takes is, it just takes spending time. Again, it takes leading with love. It takes it just takes pouring into, that's all it is. And if you spend enough time, and the most important thing, Lamar, is connections, right? You have to be able to connect, and you have to be able to have a relationship with them. Before I begin to tell somebody to pull their pants up, or you need to go to school, or whatever it is, I want to connect to you. So what do I need to do to connect to you? And for me, it's just listening. I listen and I react based off of what I hear.
I get what you're saying. Truly understand. Yes, yes. So someone has asked the question: how do you help a young man in finding his purpose?
Sometimes it's just a matter of exposing them to new things, right? So if a person's only been exposed to one thing, then they only can see that one thing. So again, let's go out and let's do something different. I live in Maryland. I'm about 10 minutes from Washington, D.C. And I was in a college classroom teaching a class. And I asked the class, how many people hang out in D.C.? Remember, I said D.C. is 10 minutes away from where I live. And half the class said they had never been to D.C. You're 10 minutes away from D.C. and you've never been there, right? And so if you just go 10 minutes to the east, or 10 minutes to the west, or if you go from Jamaica to England, or from Jamaica to America, or from Jamaica to Canada, you get a different environment. And when you put people in different environments, they see things differently. When you expose them to different opportunities, they see things differently. Sometimes they can't find their purpose because the only thing that's before them is this one thing. And so I don't know if the industry, like one of the industries in Jamaica, might be fishing. Well, they may think they have to be a fisherman, right? But you might not have to be a fisherman. You can be a pilot. So it's about exposure. What will you expose them to? Expose them to in terms of conversation, expose them to in terms of what they read, expose them into where they go, and expose them to they hang around. Who you hang around with will tell a lot about whether or not you'll find your purpose. Quick story. I'm gonna tell you a quick story. There was a guy who, and this goes to, I think it's Wendy. I'm gonna say Nicole. That's easier for me to say. Nicole, I have a friend, and his mother is an educator in Washington, D.C. And so when he graduated from high school, he went to North Carolina. There's a school in North Carolina called North Carolina A&T University. But he went to North Carolina A&T to play around. He was tired of education. It wasn't what he wanted to do. And so he gets to North Carolina, and all he wants to do is party and hang out and all those other things. The people that he meet in North Carolina, they come from small towns. And so they come to North Carolina A&T to get an education because they want to leave those small towns. So all the friends that he wanted to hang out with went to class. Because they went to class, he went to class. And so now he graduates with this degree. He gets a master's degree. And again, it's the environment that he was hanging around. He was hanging around people who wanted to be educated. And subsequently from that environment, he was able to find his purpose. This guy is a technology genius. So that's one of the ways, exposure.
Yeah, beautiful story indeed. You see, just changing that environment, changing who it is, because sometimes we're stuck in a box and sometimes we need help to get out of that box.
Right. If you think of it this way, again, I live in Washington, D.C. So if you're in politics, you move to Washington, right? If you wanna act in movies, you move to Hollywood. If you want to act in plays, you move to New York. If you want to be a chef, you might move to Jamaica or to France. You go there because of the environments, because the environments help you to find your purpose.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. For those who are just joining us, we're talking to Mr. Williams. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your first name, so I don't want to spoil it.
Reggie.
So I don't want to spoil it. So Mr. Williams, he's a national speaker and trainer for marginalized Black boys and art as well. So I want to thank you, Mr. Williams, for sharing with us tonight. It's a pleasure to have you here, because your story is trying to transform us young men. Because I'm a young man, see, we're not old yet. So we can say us young men into better people. It's actually a beautiful thing. But when, like you said it, but how are you so able? Like, how are you able to connect with these people on a different level? Because we can just be like, just like everybody else when we're approaching it. But based on what you're saying, you said you really create a connection with them. How do you go about that?
Again, really, remember, I'm a behavioral health specialist. So what that means in essence is I pay attention to behavior, right? And it's important to me for people to connect to me, right? That's important to me. So if it's important for people to connect to me, it's important that I should also connect to people. And so again, I just pay attention. You know, if I see a kid wearing some Air Jordans, I might, hey, yo, what's up with them? Them Jordans is tight, man. You know, you good. And a young boy who has an old man come up and talk to him about his shoe game, you know, that's a connection. You know, I'm an old man, but I like hip hop. So, you know, I might hear them spitting some beats, or, you know, and so then I might spit something. And so oh man, this old man can spit, right? So it's just a matter of paying attention to their behavior and then speaking on it. You know, again, what hat are they wearing? What shirt are they wearing? What does the shirt say? You know, I see certain shirts and I look, hey, what does your shirt mean? And sometimes you just asking a question creates a conversation. So again, it's just paying attention, you know, paying attention, not trying to be so smart and uppity like you know everything. Remember, the hands together so we can clap. So that's it, man. It's just paying attention.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said, because a lot of people, when they're trying to help people, you actually approach it in a way where you're actually putting them down, when you're acting to know it all, as they
Absolutely.
will say. And I agree with that, because understanding who you're talking to, and that is good being behavioral. Like, you look at the different actions and then you react, because you can't hold an egg like how you'd hold something that is metal, because if you drop the egg will crack.
There Lamar go dropping them jewels, man. That's right. That's right. There you
But
go.
But I'm saying I agree with that, and it's good that whenever you're speaking to people, you're paying attention to their behavior, and that actually helps conversation flowing and stuff like that. And sometimes you pick up on like certain things, if they're hiding something or if they're afraid of speaking about something, and that would help you to create what to do. Do you actually? So my question is, for example, you talk to them day one, right? You talk to them day one, and you realize you like day one would be the day you're just getting to know them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, do you actually go home and plan for the next time you're going to speak to them, or you just go with the flow?
Both yes and no. So sometimes based off of what's been said, because a lot of times when I'm in a group, when I do a group setting, the things that happen in that group, I begin to think about them a little bit more and say, you know what, I could have said this or I could have said that, and I want to make sure the next time we have a conversation that, maybe I add this to it. But so there is some planning, but a lot of it still revolves around me listening. There have been times where I have been hired to go to a place and speak. And so when you go somewhere to speak, they tell you, well, we want you to speak on this particular subject. And so now I'm preparing for this subject. There have been times I have walked into a room and I've heard the audience come in, and I heard the young boys talking about a particular issue, and my speech turned around on that what they were talking about. And the reason why was because if that was what was on their heart at that moment, then I need to speak about what's on their heart, not this thing that I had planned out. And usually, because I'm kind of speaking on the same issues all the time, some of those points that I had planned, I can always drop them into it. But once, if you walk into an auditorium, because a lot of times when I'm speaking, I try to meet them at the front door if I can, right? And so if I hear them come in and there's certain conversations that I pick up on, sometimes I'll use those conversations and that will become what I'll talk about. So yeah, there is a little bit of planning, but there's always the opportunity. I leave the door open for me to be authentic and what I call organic in what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But group setting, how do you approach these group settings to ensure that there's no one that's their question is left unanswered, or they didn't feel welcome, or they didn't get a chance for their voice to be heard? Some people get lost in the crowd. How do you prevent that from happening?
First, I always tell them, look, if you don't have the courage, and I say that, and it's not nothing, if you don't have the courage, or if you don't feel comfortable making your point of, in the group, or if you said something and you didn't think that your point was heard, pull me to the side, right? Because I'm here to listen to this thing. I'm here to hear this out. And I'll tell people all the time, it's not always about me having an answer. Sometimes it's just about me listening. Again, it comes back to listening, right? And so the thing is, I don't ever, even if I have a person who seems to want to monopolize the group, they want to talk. I'll tell them, hey, yo, look, man, appreciate, the comments and everything. Love them. Look, let's get somebody else in this thing, and you and I, we can chop this up afterwards. So the thing is, I'm always, leaving the door open for them to have an opportunity to talk to me. And also sometimes it's just about, hey, look, you're struggling. Well, look, let's talk this out, because there are times in group settings where I'll almost make it be about just me and you. And I know how to do that in such a way that doesn't leave everyone else out, but I can make it feel like, yo, you have my undivided attention. So it just depends upon the situation. And I've been doing this for 18 years, man. So there's not a whole lot of surprises I can get.
I know, yeah, I get what you're saying. But just looking back, so when growing up, how was life like growing up for you?
Man, life for me was great. Now, it's funny because, again, I grew up in a very small town. Everybody knew everybody. And we grew up in what's relatively a poor town. Like, even to this day, where I come from it's poorer today than it was when I grew up. There's no community centers. There's nothing in those communities. But what I saw growing up was that the people, and it's just like I told you, I was in Jamaica probably about 15 years ago, and it's the same feeling I got when I was in Jamaica. The people had so much love for each other. So, like, I can come to your house unannounced and you come on in here and get something to eat. Or I would have some extra peaches and I would take them to certain people in the community. So there was just a wealth of love and warmth from the area that I grew up in. And when I finally left, that's when I began to realize, wow, we didn't have this and we didn't have that and we didn't have all these other things, but what we had was love. Like everybody loved up on everybody else. And just to give you an example, I went home in February before COVID to give a speech, and people who I had not seen in 40 years, came to hear me speak. My high school teachers, my middle school teachers came to hear me speak. And so that's the kind of love I grew up in. And you know, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It made me who I am. And it is the reason that I can do what I do the way that I do it, because again, I grew up in a space or in a place where there was so much love. And you hear me say this, I try to always lead with love.
Mm-hmm. I get what you're saying, because you know, when I was younger in my community, we usually play like football and cricket together, and we still do it, because a couple of the guys and I play football, and the other guys usually play football at the square. Do you guys do stuff like that when at your age?
We didn't, for a long time, we didn't even have, we had cornfields, and so that's what we played. And we got a basketball court. I probably was 12, 13, 14 years old before we ever had a basketball court. So we made up a basketball court, or we put a tire rim on a tree, and that's how we played basketball. So, you know, we played basketball on the court, and we threw football in the pastures, but we didn't have any recreation centers or anything like that. So we played basketball, threw the football, played baseball. We didn't get to play organized sports until we were in school. Whereas, you know, where I live now, you get to play organized sports before you go to school.
So you talk about the love, you grew up in love. So you were basically saying that love that you grew up in is like it helped and it sparked something into you where you were willing to share that love with others.
See again, my mother's father was a farmer, right? So here's the lesson that I learned farming. Whatever you plant, you're going to harvest, right? Whatever is planted in the soil will come out of the soil. And so love was planted into me, and love is what I try to give out. Now, my wife says I'm mean, and there's a little mean in me, right? But underneath the meanness, I am rooted in love. You know, a quick story about my grandmother, right? Just to show you the kind of love I grew up in. My grandmother, I was 15 years old, and my grandmother got a call that her oldest son was shot and killed. And my grandmother, you know, she did what a mother would do. It was her firstborn child. My grandmother had 13 kids. Shot and killed. She began to cry. Then she began to pray, right? Those are, you know, my grandmother prayed every day, 3, 4, 5, 10 times a day. So that wasn't new. But 5 minutes after she was told that her son had been shot and killed, she was praying for the man who shot her son, praying that his soul would be saved by God. 5 minutes after she learned about her son being shot. That's the kind of love I grew up under. I didn't understand it. I was even angry with my grandmother because I thought that somebody should revenge. We should go get revenge. That's what I'm thinking as a 15-year-old. We should go get the guy who killed my uncle. But my grandmother, no, she prayed for that man.
Yeah, I get you. So what made you decide that, okay, yeah, I'm going to take all of this and put it in a book?
Wow. Wow, that's a really so before I became a behavioral health specialist, I had a career in journalism. And so I am a writer. And throughout my life, I have a habit of writing things down. And I just kind of, you know, it's not necessarily journaling, but I write stuff down in a book and I come back to it. And so I wrote 4 chapters of the book, not even really realizing that I was writing a book. I just wrote 4 chapters because it was like it was in me. These stories were in me, and I needed to get them out. And so when I wrote the first 4 chapters, it was really me not writing the book. It was just getting the stuff out of me on paper. And after I wrote the first 4 chapters, I probably didn't write for another 2 years. And then something happened. I was in a meeting, and some information came out. And also, God made me a little uncomfortable with some things. And the message that I was getting from God was, if you don't finish this book, I'm going to continue to make you uncomfortable. So I didn't want to be uncomfortable anymore. And then I finished the book. So again, it wasn't some great thought on my behalf. Like, you know what? I'm going to write a book. That wasn't it. It was almost like I was pushed and forced to write it, so to speak.
All right, so I'm a newcomer. I just go in the bookstore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine this. Yeah, I'm a new, I'm just stepping at the bookstore and want to pick up a nice book for read. Your book caught my eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do I expect as a new reader? Just I read it for the first time. What should I expect from it?
You would well, see, let me see. That's the cover right there. Okay. So when you look at the cover, you see the American flag around the boy's mask, around his face. You can't really see it, but one side has a scar and the other side has a tear. And the tear is a blood tear, right? And so with the mask, the scar, and the tear, what you would expect is, what pain is this young man feeling? And so that's what you would get when you look at the cover. When you open it up, you will begin to understand why he has this pain, why he behaves the way he behaves, why he acts the way he acts, why he feels the way he feels. And I then also challenge people. I challenge parents. I challenge educators. I challenge the church in terms of the way that you navigate, or the way that you work with Black boys. You don't understand that you think that you're doing something that's good for them, but really what you're doing is hurting them. I have a mother in Savannah, Georgia. She purchased my book. She's a correction officer in Savannah. She has 2 sons. I got a call from her about 2 weeks ago, and she said, I'm having a hard time reading your book. I said, why? She says, because it's so heavy. I said, what do you mean? She says, it's causing me to look at some things that I was doing to my children that I didn't realize I was doing to them. So it's going to step on toes. People are going to read it. And again, as I said, they're going to learn about the pain of young Black boys, but people are going to read it and also learn about the pain that they caused young Black boys.
Yeah. I'm just taking a little bit minute to let that, simmer down and soak in,
Yeah.
But you see, what I loved about what you said about the book, and why I would actually recommend people to get it, is the fact that it challenges us. And the reason why it was heavy for her, it helped us to, you see, when stuff really let us realize certain things, especially when we realize that sometimes we're hurting ourselves and not realizing, and stuff like that, and we're hurting others without realizing. And you see, sometimes it's actually hard to open up your eyes. Think about when you're sleeping. When you're just sleeping, it's really hard to just open up your eyes to the bright light when you're just waking up.
Lamar done hit it again, boy. That's right.
Yeah, so that's what I loved about it, because a lot of us are living in this so-called dream world that we're fed, and we're also feeding others. And it's hard for us to wake up. And that's why I would recommend everyone to get this book, because, you know, we need something to help us wake up out of fantasy and wake up into reality, right? You know, that's so nice. Sorry. But yeah. You see, God no. Brilliant story. You see the fact that you help others and now you put it in a book, basically saying, all right, this is the way we're going to. You're not right now, I'm speechless. No words to say, but guys, get the book.
The first two chapters, right? If you purchased the book and you didn't read anything but the first two chapters, right? The first chapter is entitled Welcome Nowhere. So in other words, no matter where I go or no matter where a black boy goes, nobody welcomes him. And the second chapter is entitled Trapped, which means that everywhere I go, there seems to be a trap, right? And, you know, while Jamaica is a little different from America, right? And America is a little different from the UK, right? No matter where black boys are, Welcome Nowhere and Trap can almost apply to any black boy anywhere.
Oh, I love the titles, too.
Yeah.
I love the titles. Welcome Nowhere. Like, how can I be welcome yet still nowhere?
That's it. Yeah, sometimes if you look at what's going on, you look at what's going on in America right now,
I've heard
in terms of, you know, George Floyd and recently Jacob Blake, you know, they were in their neighborhoods and they weren't even welcome, you know, in their neighborhoods. And so it's tough. It's tough.
You know, I actually find it very disheartening, you know, but it's still, I don't relate to it as much because, you know, experiencing something is far different from looking outside still, you know.
Right.
But it's still disheartening because someone is just being placed in a box or treated differently by something that is not really, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I know if I lived in a system like that, it would have been difficult for me.
It's very difficult because, again, it's like no matter what you do, it's, you know, you're disrespected. No matter what you do, someone is considering it wrong. And, you know, there's a somewhere in the book I say that as a black man, I'm always one misunderstanding away from being shot. You know, just a misunderstanding. You know, not doing something wrong, just a misunderstanding. You know, I'm one misunderstanding away from being put in jail for something I didn't do. You know, and that's what it is to live here in America. You know, it today and actually always. It's never really changed.
Look like we have to go to a part 2 of the American journey, called the American journey, because it's actually a really good, really thing we need to really look at, you know. So I was wondering, you know, right now I'm speechless. Like,
take your time, man. Take your time. Take your time.
You really did a good job. You're doing a good job. You're doing not even a good job. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Applause. Applause.
Thank you.
So I'm just want our viewers, let us know you're here, and if you have any question, you can ask. But now is the time for the giveaway. So now we're getting ready. Get those fingers ready. Let us know that you're ready, and I'll give you some time to prepare your question.
I already have my question ready.
Yeah, we just want to, I don't know, 2 people just say ready. Type in the comment, let us know you're ready. You know, get those fingers ready because, you know, a lot of us are sleeping and we need a book. Maybe this is the book to open up your eyes.
Yeah.
So someone, this is exactly what is needed. Would love to read. Yes, read it. And you
Thank
have a
you.
chance. You have a chance to get it right now, you know.
Thank you, Money Coin. Oh, is that money? I don't. Okay.
Good night. Good night. I need this book. Yes. Yeah. You need to, we can't sleep forever, you know. We
Look,
can't
look, look.
sleep forever.
Miss Davis, I was checking out her book, Breaking the Barriers. I was intrigued by the title. She's got to tell me what that is. So
This is her husband, to be honest. This is her
that's her
husband.
husband. Okay, okay. Breaking Your Barriers. I love that title, man. I love
Yeah,
that title.
yeah, yes.
Wait,
And
tell her, put it up again. I want to see the graphics again. I didn't. I caught a better grip.
what this?
Yeah, I love the graphics, man. So we might have to exchange books.
Yeah, I'll talk to her and
Okay.
we'll think about that. But guys, come on, we need this copy. We need this copy. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Hey, if we look, you pick a number. If we get a certain number, I may even do two. It's been fun. It's been fun, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I really loved your story. It's actually, it's like when you're eating a meal and you're fully satisfied, you say bon appetit.
Uh-huh.
It's just like my mind is so satisfied by what you're saying tonight. It's like my mind is saying, really, you really fill me with some information.
Oh man. I love you, Lamar. I love you, man. You're great. Again, that's the beauty of being around the wisdom of the youth, man. See, a lot of us old heads, we don't think that youth has wisdom, man. And usually any great movement has been created as a result of the youth. And so we can just learn to value their positions and their wisdom and take our wisdom and put it to them. Man, there's no telling what we can do.
Mhm.
You know?
So you can ask the question of the night.
Okay. So my question is, what is the one thing that I do to connect to my youth?
I know the answer to that question.
So
Come on, guys.
who is going to answer the question? So we're just going to say the first person who answers the question, right? What do I do to connect to my youth? Come on, y'all.
So if you didn't hear the question, I'll display it for you. So there's one answer that's saying listen to them.
Uh-oh.
That's all you know?
That's it. That's the winner.
Yes, Miss Lewis.
That's the winner.
I want to say congratulations to Miss Lewis. Wow. And we're glad to have you here. And you know the funny thing about it? She was doing the right thing because she was also listening.
That's it.
So, Miss Lewis, our tradition here where we just bust our little winning speech, want to thank mom and that type of speech. So in the meantime, Miss in the meantime, I want you to let us know, like anything you want to leave with us.
Hey, look, man, this continue the one thing more than anything else is to continue to know that you were created in greatness and that no matter what someone tells you, that you need to continue to walk in your greatness. You know, I don't know how COVID is affecting Jamaica, but it's tough over here. But even in COVID, I still know God has made me to be great, and God has made you to leave a legacy. So just make sure that you do something that will benefit someone long after you've gone.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just walk in your greatness.
And also, I've heard that you also did T-shirts. Do you want to show them so people can see the T-shirts that you have available?
Uh, I only got. Let me see. Is that one right there?
The pain of a genius.
The pain of a genius. And I wish I had the other one with me. I don't have it with me right now. But yeah, I'm gonna. I just put something in the chat, so anyone who want to purchase the book, they can go to that website right there. And also, to read more about the book, you can go to this site right here. So that's where you can get some more information on both, man. But it's been a blast, man. It's been an absolute blast.
So see display right there, guys.
Yeah.
And also we'd put all these links in the description as well and stuff like that.
Okay.
And God knows, Mr. Williams, we are elated to have you here. I felt empowered and I fully understand not only to help young men, but how to help people on a whole. Because sometimes, in order to help, we have to listen. Because sometimes we can't, if we don't listen, how can we understand the problem fully? And I appreciate you for coming on tonight.
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed every second of this live tonight.
Thank you. Look, I have to also say, shout out to is it Miss Davis?
Uh-huh.
Because I've been a little problematic in terms of getting back to her, because we had a schedule another time, but she's been patient with me, man, and so I appreciate her patience in allowing me to come on. So again, thank you, Lamar. You've been a great host, man.
Yeah.
You poured into me. There's some things that you said that I'm going to definitely use. So it's been fun. It's been fun. Hey, look, I'm international, man.
Mm-hmm. And Mrs. Lewis is saying, Mr. Williams, I was very inspired listening to you. I know I want to read this book. Congrats. Keep doing the good work. Yes.
Thank you, Miss Lewis. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
I remember Mrs. Lewis, in order to collect your prize, you would send a message to the TalkTruth email. You'll email us and we'll get to you, and then we'll actually, yeah, we'll get the transaction smoothly.
Right.
Yeah. And really, it was wonderful having you here.
Thank you. And Miss Lewis, I'll sign that for you as well.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. All right. Good night.
All right, man. Take care, man. Have a great one.
All right. And also, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's always a pleasure to share with you. Remember, we have the Tuesday show where we do the business talk, Thursdays, girl talk, and Saturdays is real connection with the men. Thank you guys for being here. Always a pleasure for being here. And we're also accepting donations. Thank you very much because we want the community to grow,